Hello friends. So the next chapter, that is chapter 2, is major approaches to the history of modern India. So first of all, what is historiography? That is, it is the study of historical interpretation. The modern history of India, for the convenience of understanding, can be read broadly under four approaches: the colonial, nationalist, Marxist, and subaltern, each with its own distinct characteristics and modes of interpretation. The first is colonial approach. The term colonial approach has been used in two senses. One relates to the history of the colonial countries, while the other refers to the works which were influenced by the colonial ideology of domination. In most historical works, there was criticism of indigenous society and culture. Simultaneously, there was praise for the Western culture and values and glorification of the individuals who established the colonial empires. The histories of India, written by James Mill, Vincent Smith, and many others, are pertinent examples of the colonial historiographical trend. Certain characteristics common to most of the works of these historians are the following: the Orientalist representation of India, the opinion that the British brought unity to India, the notions of social Darwinism. The English considered themselves superior to the natives and fittest to rule. The fourth one is India viewed as a stagnant society which required guidance from the British. And the last one, establishing Pax Britannica to bring law and order and peace to a bickering society. Nationalist approach. The nationalist approach to Indian history can be described as one which tends to contribute to the growth of nationalist feelings and to unify people in the face of religious, caste, or linguistic differences or class differentiation. It should be noted that the nationalist historians of modern India didn't exist before 1947. However, a detailed and scientific critique of colonialism for the adverse economic aspects of alien rule was developed by nationalists like Dadabhai Nauroji, G.V. Joshi, G.K. Gokhale. The only accounts of the national movement was by nationalist leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and Pattabhi Siddharamaiah. Marxist approach. The beginning of the Marxist approach in India was heralded by two classic books, Rajni Palme, that's India Today, and A.R. Desai's Social Background of Indian Nationalism. A.R. Desai's Social Background of Indian Nationalism was first published in 1948. A.R. Desai traces the growth of the national movement in five phases, each phase based on particular social classes which supported and sustained it. Subaltern approach. This school of thought began in the early 1980s under the editorship of Ranajit Guha. This school sees nationalism as exploitative in terms of caste, gender, religious, and creed divisions. They believed that the Indian people were never united in a common anti-imperialist struggle, that there were no such entity as the Indian national movement. Communalist approach. The historians of this school, relying completely on the colonial historiography of medieval India and colonial era textbooks, viewed Hindus and Muslims as permanent hostile groups whose interests were mutually different and antagonistic to each other. In their view, India's medieval history was one long story of Hindu-Muslim conflict. It was then argued that the 19th and 20th century Muslims had the happy and proud ever represent memory of having been the ruling class, while Hindus had the sad and humiliating memory of having been the subject race. This ultimately developed mutual hatred among these groups, often resulting in communal riots, and in the end led to the partition of India. Cambridge School. According to this school of thought, the fundamental contradiction under colonial rule was not between imperialism and the Indian people, but among the Indians themselves. Further, Indian nationalism was not the product of a struggle of the Indian people against colonial exploitation, but what arose from conflict among the Indians for getting the benefits given to them by the British rulers. This approach has been criticized by many scholars on the ground that it takes the mind or ideals out of human behavior and reduces nationalism to animal politics. Liberal and neoliberal interpretations. According to this interpretation, the economic exploitation of the colonies was not beneficial to the British people as a whole. The proponents of this school of thought are Patrick O'Brien, Hopkins, and Kane. Feminist historiography. The shift in terms of the writing of women's history began with the women's movement of the 1970s. Women's vulnerability due to the denial of ownership of productive resources has been focused on the analysis of how progressive laws shape gender relations. In the colonial period, two works based upon the women's question in India, The High Caste Hindu Women by Pandita Ramabai and Mother India by Catherine Mayo, attracted international attention. So with this, we comes to an end of chapter 2, that is major approaches to the history of modern India. Hope you guys like this video. Please do like, share and comment to my channel. Thank you.